and we'll talk about it again here in case you don't have that one. Having diagonal control of my partner is very, very important. Okay? In the turtle series, we talked about having one hook inside and a far wrist like so. If I don't have control of my partner's wrist and I only have control of one side of my partner's body through a hook and she goes to sit to guard, you can never follow your partner. You're always going to lose those. But if you have a form of diagonal control ranging from one of your partner's hips to the opposite side shoulder, you effectively control both sides of her body through only having control of one hip and one shoulder. Obviously, it's best if you can control two hips by having two hooks in and have a full backhand and arm, okay, or double unders, whatever the case is. That's the best. But until we can get our partners back, if we're losing our partners back, we need to have at least some form of diagonal control. Okay, so in the turtle series, it was a wrist and a hook. So if my partner went to go roll through and escape, I can always follow my partner effectively and go into attacks. In the back, it's the same thing when we're attacking. You always want to have some form of diagonal control. So for example, if my partner falls to a given side and she goes to start to look to escape, if she goes to turn towards me, I need to make sure that I have control of my partner's one hip and control of my partner's far shoulder. So as she goes to move out and away from me, I can sit up. Now I can recapture my partner's back. If you don't have control of your partner's hip, now as you go to recapture your partner's back, your partner can just move the hips away from you. The head comes to the floor. Now I go to reclaim my partner's back. All is lost. Same thing here. If I lose the wrist, for example, so I had control of my hooks, but I lose my partner's far wrist. Now when your partner goes to move away from you, she can always get an elbow wedge between herself and you, and now you've lost all control of your partner. Okay? So it's very important. They're always trying to fight to get some control of my partner's body, usually through diagonal control ranging from one shoulder to a hip. Okay? It's unacceptable to only have control of one side of your partner's body. For example, only having a hook in place and a half claw, for example. Okay? This will only bring you so far. Yes, you can use this, and we will look at stuff like this, but you're always looking to get back to some form of diagonal control. Eventually, your partner's going to reach over and peel your hand off the shoulder, and now you're going to lose everything if you stay here. So we're always looking at ways to get to a form of diagonal control if we're losing our partner's back or trying to initially capture our partner's back. All right, so for example, for here, I have control over my partner's left hip right now, so I have to control my partner's right shoulder. Right now, I have control of my partner's left shoulder, so I have to do things like pull my partner's back off the floor and shoot my hand underneath and capture a far wrist. So now I'm ranging from the right shoulder down to the left hip. So when she goes to move out and away from me now, it's much harder, and I can look to start to insert my second hook once again and recover into positions where now I can go into attack. Okay? So getting to a form of diagonal control when we're losing our partner's back is very crucial to being able to be having success when we're going into reclaiming our partner's back so we can go to finish this from there. So now I'll talk about the underhook versus the overhook side. Okay? What many of us were told, me included, coming up in our jiu-jitsu classes years ago, was that we have one strong side and one weak side. Okay? The strong side is typically the overhook side, and the weak side is typically the underhook side. Okay, why is this? If we fall to the underhook side, like so, my partner can easily take her head to the floor, and now there's no wedge between her head and the floor, so that she can take her shoulders out, her hips out and away, and now she's free. Whereas if we fall to the overhook side, for example, now there's a wedge between your partner's head and the floor, which is my elbow. My arm's over the shoulder. So when she goes to bring her head and shoulders out to the floor, she can never get her head down to the floor, and we can control our partner. So this is generally considered the strong side. Okay? When we're on the weak side, the underhook side, your partner can easily take her head to the floor, but if you have good head positioning and just simply keep an ear-to-ear connection, where my right ear connects to her left, when she goes to take her head to the floor now, Your head serves as the same wedge on the underhook side as your elbow did on the overhook side. So obviously, if you're lackadaisical with your head positioning, your partner can easily take her head to the floor, and now she's gone. But if I keep a strong connection of my ear to her ear, and she goes to take her head out to the floor now, it's very, very difficult. Okay? So as far as controlling your partner, start to think about this as the underhook and the overhook side, not the strong side and the weak side. They're both very good at attacking purposes. It's just you have to make sure you have good head positioning so your partner doesn't scoot out of the way when you do fall to the underhook side. Okay, so that's talking about control. Talking about finishing now, when we're on the overhook side, in general, when attacking from the overhook side, it's much harder to trap your partner's hands reliably, but much easier to punch or strangle in place. From the underhook side, it's generally much easier to trap your partner's hands effectively, but much harder to actually get a strangle in place. Okay, this will make sense in a second. When we're on the overhook side, because of the orientation of our bodies, it's only really possible for me to effectively trap my partner's top hand. Okay, so when I go to trap my partner's hands defensive or my partner's defensive hands, I can trap her top hand, but I can't trap her bottom hand. This will always mean that your partner will be fighting in a 1-versus-1 situation. Okay, so when she goes to reach up and pull my hand down, she always will have one defensive hand. Okay, on the underhook side, it's very easy for me to trap both of my partner's defensive hands. Where now we're fighting in a 1-versus-none situation, where she has 0 defensive hands to defend the strangle coming in, and now when she goes to fight her left hand free, it's trapped by my legs. When she gets to fight her right hand free, it's trapped by my hand, and we can go in and punch strangles in place. The issue is, when we attack from the underhook side, it's harder to actually lock a strangle in place. Okay, so it's easier to trap my partner's hands, but it's harder to actually lock in a strangle reliably. Why is this? On the underhook side, it's harder for me to extract my elbow. When we're on the overhook side, if you notice, if I get a strangle hand across, it's easy for me to extract my elbow to be able to punch my hand behind my partner's head. In order for me to actually punch a strangle in, my left elbow in this case has to retract the same axis that my shoulder line lies on. So my 2 shoulders and my elbow have to form one straight line, and only then can I put a strangle in place. So while it's hard to trap your partner's hands reliably, you can only get one of your partner's hands trapped. If you do beat your partner's secondary hand and get a strangle in place, if you get a hand across the neck from the overhook side, now the strangle becomes very easy. Whereas on the underhook side, you can trap your partner's hands reliably pretty easily from here, where she has no defensive hands. But now I get a strangle across my partner's neck, and I go to pull my right elbow out. It can't. It's wedged against the floor. So what everyone starts to do is they start to pull the elbow straight back to try to pull the hand out. But the issue is, this relinquishes your head position and your ear connection. So now we're going to pull that elbow free. Your partner brings the head to the floor. Now they're halfway to an escape. Okay? So while it's much easier on the overhook side to trap hands reliably, it's much harder to actually punch an effective strangle in to go for a finish. Now, obviously, there are ways that we can deal with this, and we'll talk about those later. But just know, in general, on the overhook side, it's much harder to trap your partner's hands reliably. So it's harder to break through defensive hands. Because you can only work from a 1-versus-1 situation where your partner will always have at least their secondary defensive hand to defend. We'll talk about defensive hands in a second. But once you can get a hand across your partner's neck, you can easily retract your elbow to your partner's shoulder line and punch everything in place. When you're on the underhook side, it's easy to trap hands reliably, but it's hard to actually get a strangle in place because when you go to pull your elbow free, you can't because the floor is in the way. It's hard to get your elbow to the same axis as your shoulder line. And as you go to pull your elbow out, which you see people making mistakes all the time, as you go to pull your elbow free, your partner scoots the head down, you lose the ear-to-ear connection, and now your partner's halfway to an escape. Okay? So just some thoughts to think about as we're moving on and going through attacks. In general, when we work from the overhook side, it's easier to punch or strangle in, but hard to trap your partner's hands reliably. When you're working on the underhook side, it's easier to trap your partner's hands reliably, but harder to punch your strangle hand in. Let's talk about goal setting. All right, we have offensive and defensive goals. We have to understand both to be able to attack them and break through to submission offensively. Offensive goals for me. First and foremost, I want to be able to maintain a chest-to-back connection, preferably with both of our center lines